People of the Purple Butterfly here, otherwise known as People of 7 on Twitter and YouTube, people are elsewhere on the internet. My blog is located at purplebutterfly-people.blogspot.com, and my soaps, Purple Butterfly Soaps, could be located at people.etsy.com. And I'm here to make some plantain and almond milk soap using my new 8-quart crock pot. In here I have 30 ounces of 3 different oils, 2 of which are solid, and I got them heating up, but as you can see they're not clear because I didn't want to get it too hot. I got them just past room temperature, just enough to melt it so I could blend the 3 together. The only other thing in here, because this will be basically a non-colored soap, would be the titanium dioxide, which is a natural sunscreen, and it gives a white color. Then I have a stainless steel pot and frozen pieces of ice, which consists of plantains and almond milk that has been pureed together into these chunks. There's one more piece of there's one ice cube left, but that would take my measurements over, and this recipe needs to be specific. So as we get further along, it could be the super fat. Okay. Then I have 12.70 ounces of lye. I'm doing this the same way I would a standard goat's milk soap, because goat's milk, almond milk, oat milk, cow's milk, any milk will burn when you use it to make soap. So I'm just going to sprinkle it and stir it. Sprinkle it and stir it until it starts moving. That way I can stir in the lye without burning the milk. And with plantain being a fruit, well actually it's a vegetable, which is a main difference between banana and plantains. People seem to think they're the same thing, but one's a vegetable and one's a fruit, which means if you use plantain, you're going to have to cook the plantain. The soap will cook it. And it's already starting to become liquid, but it's still going to be primarily white because this process is not going to let it burn. Burn gives you that ammonia scent and a bright orange color, which nobody likes. I mean, at some point in time, the orange goes away and you end up with something that looks tan. But if you can avoid it in the first place, avoid it. In the meantime, I have the fan on, I have the air conditioner on, which means I will endeavor to talk louder, but I also have to dab the sweat. And I'm gonna put this on because the almond milk and the lye are starting to cause a couple of little fumes. It smells almost like bananas. And when it gets to this point, you almost get tempted to just go ahead and dump the rest of the lye in there, but that's not a good move. Just keep stirring, keep sprinkling, keep stirring, keep sprinkling. At least that's the way I do it. This will be a face soap. Think black soap in reverse. This is going to be a yellow, whitish looking soap, whereas the black soap is anywhere from dark brown to tan to black depending on the ashes. But generally black soap is not black. Oh, that was all she wrote. Hold on. Let me get the rest of that out of there. And it's a 90-degree day, or an 80-something degree day in Cincinnati. So it's a good thing I'm cooking this soap, because when you have something like this, in a format like this, humidity is not your friend. I have one piece of plantain left. There is a lot of yellow going on, so that means it is cooking some of the plantains. But I have this great big piece of ice left, so we're going to stir it until that becomes liquid. And whereas normally when I make goat's milk soap, I strain out whatever's left of the lye, so forth and so on. Well, since this is going to be cooked, I don't have to worry about it. Basically, all I have to do is get it dissolved enough to combine with the other primary ingredients. Which is why you didn't see me dissolve some water and just pour what looks like a glass of water in there, which is usually the lye water. This had to be processed in a frozen format. Even though it is going to be a cooked soap, it still has to follow the rules of a milk soap. And let's see how the oils are going. The oils are completely liquid. And I now have a infrared thermometer. So let's see what that's saying. (96.6 degrees Celsius), which is about 250, I do believe, for Fahrenheit measurements. And then (37.9 degrees Celsius), which is almost room temperature, about 80 degrees, and that's fine. This big chunk of ice, I'm going to have to break that up a different way. And I'm thinking I'll just go ahead and crush this up with the blender. That was not my shiniest moment, but hey, it worked. Okay. And I just splashed a lot of it. And the little pieces that's left is not going to matter. So, at this point I can go ahead and take off the goggles. And I'm going to marry the lye milk solution with my lye oils. And speaking of which, you need to turn that down, because now we're dealing with thoroughly melted oils. So we need to have the thoroughly melted oils cooking at a lower temperature. And I'm going to lean back here so there's no splash towards my face. Mainly because I like my face. It's cute and it's quirky and my smell is crooked. And of course the water is draining in my eyes again. Oh no. Caught it. The new crock pot actually has a lid rest. I just haven't figured out how to use it yet. Every time I try to engage it, it disconnects completely. So yeah, we'll get there. Meantime, I'm stirring that some and stirring it some. I don't know if you can see that, but it looks a little orange. And seeing how plantains are yellow and almond milk is white, and this is added to lye, and it was frozen, which means it didn't have a chance to burn. A light yellow is okay. Smells like a burnt banana. And I do mean that literally. But that's all good. This is one of the purest soaps I make. It's like, I don't make this soap often. Every time I make black soap where I use fresh plantains to cook the skins, I end up having to figure out what to do with the plantain because I don't eat plantains. So some point in time I figured, why don't I just make a soap out of that? So I have black soap and plantain soap. Now this is the first time I've made a batch of it this large, but it still works. And usually when I make it cold process style. This is hot process, but it still works. What doesn't work is having water in my eye to the point where it's actually closing my field of vision. Kind of helps if I can see what I'm doing while I'm making this up. Yeah. So, because I have to change these two out. From the spatula to the stick blender. And as soon as I get to trace, we're going to go back to the spatula. Ooh, this is making a real pretty color. The plantains are looking kind of grainy in there. But that's fine because, you know, it's puree. That also will make a nice exfoliating soap for your face. batch that's 132 ounces, which means most of my favorite modes and my round face cylinder mode will, you know, get filled up. But by the same token, it's right here. So I still have enough of an air cushion. But because I got soy in here and coconut and canola, I am definitely going to be on the lookout for the tornadoes and those volcanoes and all those fun things that like to attack your soap. This is taking forever to come to trace. Usually not a problem, except for I'm dripping. Hold on. It's easy to just go without the glasses. Oh, and I finally couldn't stand it anymore. My Kangaroo tank, I wasn't able to use it without going through sticking stuff in there because the threads were stripped from the ARO tank. So I got this when I was at the local tobacco shop. It's a Kangaroo tank that holds 3.5 mils of juice, but it has a standard 510 threading, which means I don't have to use an adapter. I still bought another spare adapter because the Kangaroo tapes I do have are the standard Eagle threading. So now I have a backup and I have my main. Right now that's 10. I'm hoping by the time it's done cooking, it'll lighten back up to a beige or a yellow or even a white, depending on how long the cure out is. And yes, just like black soap, I do intend to cure this past the cook time, like 2 weeks. Just because this is a vegetable, and part of the reason it's not coming to trace is because it has to cook in here. It's cooking in the lye and in the, you know, heat of the crock pot, but still, that's what it's doing. That is so pretty. Hold on, let's see if I can grab a picture of it for you. Kind of grainy. That will be exfoliating for the skin. I hope that was easy to see. Right now, I'm having a space problem. My main, or the brand new 8-quart crock pot is right here, and right here is my original crock pot, because I wanted one here and the other next to it, but there's no room for that right now. So I got a box. I'm taking everything that's on this table and I'm putting it on a shelf over there. But right now over there I have mini soap molds. They're going to go to a different location. I find that rather interesting. Every time I start the stick blender, my door does this suction thing. The only thing I have on is a fan, so it shouldn't cause that issue. Oh, yeah. The window's open in there, and the window's open in here, so yeah, that could possibly do that. Wow. Look at that color. Isn't that gorgeous? Let's hope it stays like that or evolves more to this by the end of the cook. Right now, we're still waiting for trace. All kinds of fun stuff happens if you don't completely come to trace on a cooked soap. So, yeah. So right now we're at 21 minutes and I still haven't reached trace. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is get to trace, get to the cooking stage, and then bring you back for when it's, you know, basically ready. Because this soap will have to cook 2 more hours total, well, including the 20 minutes. Most batches, like my 2-pound batch here, cooks about 1.5 hours to 2. So this might cook even longer because, well, there's much more of it. But once I get it capped up, you know, top one, and in a position to relax, I'm going to go take that fan and put it right in my face. Because right now I feel like I'm melting into a puddle of goo. But one thing I can say, I am really, really happy that, you know, even with the little trace of lye that I can smell, which will cook out, I'm really happy that it smells basically like plantains and bananas, because this will be an unscented soap. There's not going to be any extra scent in it. That means no lavender, people. That means no kiss and tell. That means no best friends forever. No peaches. No cherry. It's just going to smell like it smells. This is the purest soap aside from Purity and that I make. And instead of goat's milk, it has almond milk. You just don't know how good almond milk is for your skin. It's almost better than goat's milk. But because it's almond milk and plantains and no tallow of any kind, this soap is vegan, which is why the few times I make it, I sell out of it immediately. Usually I have to make 2 large batches. Well, now I have 1 large batch in a crock pot that's twice the size as the one I had. And what I tend to do, I mean, like last time, I made 12, 6 of them were for me, and I ended up selling, you know, no, wait a minute, 12 of them was for me, because it was a batch of 24, and I ended up keeping 6 of them, you know, even though that was my personal stash. And then kids that love me and, you know, call me mommy, say, hey mom, can I get one of those? Hey mom, can I get, well, you can only do that 3 times before, you know, you're down to half your stock. And then, honey child, you didn't remember your mama. Yes, I did. You said you didn't want it. Well, I changed my mind. I could smell it. Yeah. The truth be told, she went into the bathroom and she was washing her face with the almond soap that she likes so much. And then she grabbed the bar of my soap and loved it and used it, and now, hey, that soap is almost gone. You need to make some more of that. 4 of these bars are hers. Yep. I'm getting a lot of bubbles and thickening, and I'm reaching trace. It's a very loose trace, but I'm reaching trace, and a splash just went across my way. I don't think it got me, but I think I'm going to go downstairs and take a shower once I'm done. And that's also why I usually wear sleeves. I'm not wearing sleeves today because it's very hot in this city. But if there is a splash that hit my skin where the sleeves are missing, I'm going to know about it. Trust me on that. There we go. And look. That burnt orange went away. The brown went away. It's beige. It's going back to almost white. Hold on, I just seen something that will drive me bats. There's almond milk in here that didn't get mixed in. And that gives me enough room now to take the leftover cube, which has completely melted now, and put it in to this container so it can catch what would have made a mess down there. I can just strain it or drain it as I need to as this process continues. So now I have to go get another roll of paper towels from down there too. Because that one is now mine. It will be going to my bedroom. So that way when it gets too hot and I have to wipe my face, I have something in my room I can do it with, and I have to worry about, oh, well, I use that for soap. Basically, if I use it for something other than soap, it becomes non-sterile and declared personal product, and it goes in there. Because anything that I will be making for others or selling as product has to remain sterile. Now we have trays. We have a pretty trays. All these bubbles need to go away. Can you see that? It's almost white. I will be taking pictures of this. Meantime, I'm trying to decide slab mode or standard mode. Ooh, Lucy mode. That way I can do 21 bars at one time. This will actually make twice that plus a round, because let's see, the Lucy mode is usually 64 ounces, so I could get 2 of those. And then the round mode, the cylinder, is 48. So basically, once this reaches a finished product, when it's time to put in molds, I'm just going to have all my molds lined up, and I'm going to just start filling up stuff. And if it doesn't fill it up, then we have, you know, samples or whatever of the ones that don't make it full bar. The last time I made a batch this big, it was cold processed and it was 115. Well, by the time everything got measured, it was a little bit larger than that. So I have about 10% more than my largest bar. In other words, instead of 6 pounds of soap, 7 pounds of soap, this is 8 pounds. Oh, actually, I'm going to have to measure it. This might be 10 pounds of soap. The capacity of this crock pot is 16, and I always like to have an air cushion, so I don't think I would have went past the 16. I would have probably stopped at 10, but 132 ounces divided by 16, which is 1 pound. Yeah, I'll do the math on that later. But this might actually be 10 pounds. That's a thicker trace. And the crock pot has that "I've never been used, so I'm gonna smell like something burnt for just a second" type scent. And I see little white swirls from the trace, and the fact that the color is lighting up. Let's burp this. We don't want all these bubbles in the finished product. Crock pot is overheating. Not the crock pot, the stick blender. But that's okay, because I'm reaching a thick trace, which means it's time to switch to this anyway. I'm going to put that in there for right now. That's what I'm also going to do. Put in the rest of this plantain. Since it's already traced now, I don't have to worry about it messing up the measurements. So that could just be my super fat. And then that can go down there. That smells so good. See, black soap usually has an earthy smell that smells slightly like bananas. This is plantain, so it smells a whole lot like bananas. In honor of making my plantain soap, because I knew I was going to be doing that today, bananas and cream in the eye stick today. The mod, or or the tank. Whatever fun name you want to call it, that's what we're doing today. And when in doubt, scrape it down, scrape it down, scrape it down. Oh, Allison and all my new soaping buddies who have tried hot process or cold process even for that matter, when you get to the point where it's time to scrape it, disconnect. That way, anything that's going on here is not going to affect you here. So then when you need to scrape it, grab it by the end of your handle right here. It makes a perfect fulcrum. So that way you can get a real good grip on it and continue scraping. And do not ever scrape the inside of your stick blender where the blades are until you have done that step. Disconnect it. And then you can just scoop it out like that. So that way, say for instance that blade doesn't want to cooperate or get tangled up on there, you don't have to worry about Power Ranger blades. Nope, that won't happen because there's no power attached to it now. Okay. Now say for instance you want to clean that out as you go. That's easy. Take some water. You know, the water you would have used for making the soap, except for this was made with a milk and a fruit. Pour that in there. Now you may reconnect. Oh, and do not put the level of the container higher than halfway. Because when it spins around, it has enough to completely clean off your blade assembly. See that? See, the outside is where you can safely scrape. The inside, make sure you disconnect. And when it starts coming all the way up here, like suds, that means it's completely clean on the inside. See there? Put that with your go-to-wash container because it still gets cleaned and sterilized and all that stuff. It's just not going to be in a, okay, I caked and stayed stuck and now you gotta boil me out and soak me for 5 days type format because you just got rid of anything that might have caused an issue. Now it looks like a pudding type. Yep. So that's a very thick trace. I'm going to go ahead and pour that in there. So that way I have a place to rest my spoon. This has been People 7 on Twitter and YouTube, people elsewhere on the internet. Look how much I'm sweating. My blog is located at PurpleButterfly-People.blogspot.com, and my soaps, PurpleButterfly Soaps, can be located at people.etsy.com. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. I will be back after we get past the pudding stage, probably past the mashed potato stage, going into the first gel. I'm going to make sure I peek at it enough times where there will be no volcanoes. But in the meantime, this needs to go where I don't have to worry about it touching anything, because a lot of water is needed to neutralize that. So I'll see you guys on the flip. Bye now. Yeah, there's my cylinder mode. Here's an already lined tall and narrow. My Lucy mode, which doesn't need lining because you just simply pop it apart. It doesn't stick to anything. But knowing me, I'll probably line it anyway. And then here's my original 40-ounce mode. Supposed to hold 3 pounds, but never got that much out of it. Here's another tall and narrow and another tall and narrow. My standard is over here. So basically, I'm going to make sure that regardless of how much soap or any overflow, I got it covered. But the first thing, because I already lined it and everything the last time I used it, just so that way when it was time to, it's like I make soap, the liner comes out, you cut it up, put the liner, the plastic part back in, put the top back on, put the liner back in, and it's ready for the next use. So I do that with a lot of my soaps. That's why that tall narrow was already lined. So in the meantime, whatever comes out of here, I'm ready. So catch me on the flip. This has been People 7 on Twitter and YouTube, people elsewhere on the internet. My blog is located at PurpleButterfly-People.blogspot.com, and my soaps, PurpleButterfly Soaps, can be located at people.etsy.com. Bye now. Set up with, a mode here, a cylinder mode here. When I realized, hey, wait a minute, that is almost at Vaseline stage. It hasn't even been 10 minutes. That went quickly. I mean, case in point, no stiff. I could stir that freely. So since it basically became Vaso very quickly, I'm going to let it do a fold over, stir it, let it do a fold over. This is what you call mashed potatoes. With a glisten. The glisten is where it's cooking into gel stage. So more than likely this will not volcano, but it will be completely done in less time than anticipated. That's a good thing. Yep, yep. And that piece of soap that just popped out, I can go ahead and test that. Yep. Because if it's in the green, that means it's already done. First, it helps if you test with water. or a container of water that actually has water in it. Yep, yeah. And give me something to do while I'm safeguarding this soap, basically, yeah. Wow. It's green with a couple of dark specks. A couple of dark specks are the part that needs to cook. And the green is the safe portion. So I'm just going to drop that right back on in there and let it finish processing. But I'm always surprised how fast certain soaps cook and how fast certain soaps make you wait on it. So let's go ahead and push that on down. That way it can get down there and cook with the rest of it. Wow, that was hot. And when you do this, don't put your hand in the middle of the molten lava of the soap. Yep, because it will burn. Through the glove, it will burn. It won't break the skin and be a lye problem. Or, you know, okay, it's going to melt the glove problem, but you will feel that heat. Oh, I forgot to put the sugar in it and the super fatting. Well, I can add that at the end of the cook. Yeah. It's just that now I have to dissolve the sugar instead of mixing it in with the oil. Or I can just leave it out. The silk is also missing. I usually put silk in that. But anyway, live and learn, then get loves. This has been People7 on Twitter and YouTube, people elsewhere on the internet. My blog is located at PurpleButterfly-people.blogspot.com, and my soaps, PurpleButterfly Soaps, can be located at people.etsy.com. I'll bring you back when the Plantain soap is ready to go right on into these modes here. Bye now. All 8 pounds of it. Yeah. Here I have a shot glass with grapeseed oil and sunflower seed oil. That's going to be my super fatting, y'all. Yeah. I figured since I missed gel stage, literally, because it went very fast, I'll just make sure this is already incorporated, and I'm going to let it do another fold over, and I'll know it's already in there. Unsaponified pure goodness, because that's the purpose of doing your super fat in a hot process soap last, because it can't get altered or changed because the soap is already cooked. So everything else is moisturizing. Skin benefits to the nth degree. Yes. Yes. Smells amazing. And even though I can tell it has gelled already, and I didn't see it do a fold over, I'm going to cook it another 30 minutes or so. I had already anticipated a long cook time. It didn't give me a long cook time before it literally went to safe. So I'm just going to do what I do, because guess what? You can't overdo a cooked soap. Unless you burn it or something. And I did not. So, yeah. And look at that lovely color. That's a better view over there. Back in bed. Alrighty, what you know good. This is People7 on Twitter and YouTube, People elsewhere on the internet. My blog is located at PurpleButterfly-People.blogspot.com, and my soaps, PurpleButterfly Soaps, can be located at People.etsy.com. It has reached the second gel. The super faster in there is doing some stuff, and I'm trying to prevent a volcano right now. So forgive me if I'm talking extremely fast. Yep. Ooh, that's hot. Keep forgetting new format. I have to hold down here now. But I put my super fat on top and just let it sit before I decide to stir it in. Because the first batch of super fat didn't do anything, but super fat is super fat. If it goes in after the final cook, it's just beneficial to the soap itself. But if you wanted to make for a nice, smooth, transitional soap, like when it's time to stir and add color or fragrance or what have you, even though this soap won't have any of that, it's kind of good to make sure you could blend that on in there and have it liquid, not stiff and soap on a rope and so forth and so on. Yeah, but it was taking forever to do a fold over, and then I look up and it already went through gel stage, so I put some more super fat in it just so I could see it move. So that's what that's about. Now in the meantime, I need to get out a test strip. A little water in here. Because I do believe it's completely done. And if it is, ready. Well, actually, ready, back up. I always have overflow and backup. Because you never know, even when you think, oh, well, it's not making the amount it's supposed to, then you look up and when it's time to do certain things, it's making more. That's green, y'all. That's a mild green. Yep. Now, the part I want to know about. The ladder. Yeah. What do I do with the... Oh, I put the top on the... Okay. Because even though this is my face soap, I still like a bubbly, lathery face soap. Which is exactly what I got there. Ooh, that's cooling. That's a nice sensation. You know, for something that has no added scent, it smells good. But in the meantime, that is ready. It's still mobile. Yeah. Now what I'm about to do now is turn this down to keep warm. And then I'm going to put this. Well, actually, I can't do it that way because that works for liquid. This is too small for this. So, let's see. We'll just be very, very careful. I warned you about getting your fingers on that hot spot? That burned. It certainly did. But it's all good. Plantains is a very nourishing substance, and if you get a burn or a bruise or poison ivy or whatever, guess what? This is exactly what you would use to heal it. So if I get myself too badly with the plantain soap, I'm just going to wash my hands with the plantain soap and then leave it on. Kind of like I do the Anago mask. Wash 20 minutes in, leave it to set, rinse, and it's all a done deal. Yep. Oh, in case anybody asks, the liner for my cylinder mode actually rises up what would be the equivalent of 2 bars of soap higher than the mode itself. When you're using hot process, that's all good because that's like a couple of extra soaps you can fit in the mode. If you're using CP, then that's going to be an issue because it can seep over where the the seal is for the liner. But because hot process soap is cooked and is literally glopped in, that's never an issue. And that's another thing I like to do when it's hot process. Even though, as you can see, it's at the top, I always like to push a little extra in, because that way, if there was something that was going to make an air bubble, that air bubble is forced out when I do the final slam. And the keep warm setting is keeping stuff warm, because we're not done yet, folks. Be right back. Excuse me. See? Got about this much at the top. And for me, that's fine. But when it comes time to unmold it, I'm going to be going, why not just take that all the way up to the top? Because I know myself very well. So I'm just going to go ahead and add that last little bit anyway. Yep. Besides, plantain soap has a way of spoiling it, so you want to get all that goodness in there while you can. Yep. And because this is a hot process soap, I do not have to put a top over it. I do not have to smush it down or even put foil or not foil. Y'all know what I mean. The freezer paper or the plastic wrap or the press and seal on it. That being said, I do it anyway. But I do it with the paper towel, so that way the very first time I need it, I can just peel that right on off. Because literally, it is not going to stick. And it will allow me to slam it down even better. Ooh, look, there was an air hole. Okay. we just take this last little bit, push it on in there. And see, this is where the samples would come from with this one. If there will be any samples, because like I said, this soap don't stay around long. It really don't. It's almost like I have to hide my portion. That's like when I first started making soaps, and then everybody kept buying it up and so forth and so on. And I'm going, well, I made soap so that way I could have soap for myself that I wasn't allergic to. And then every time I looked up, the only thing I had left was the samples, because everybody else was buying up the rest of it. I don't do that anymore. Mine comes off the top. And if there's samples to be had or whatever, I'll gladly send somebody some free samples. But I'm not going to use the free samples as the only soap I get to get and everything else gets sold. That didn't make sense to me. So I know it didn't make sense to anybody else. There, that'll do it. So now when I put it over there with the rest of the soaps that are curing and cooling, I don't have to worry about, oh, well, what's in the way of this? What if it got knocked over, so forth and so on? Because, well, guess what? That's no longer an issue. And I do not know what I did with my rubber band, so I'm just going to use the restraint cap. It'll be a loose fit, but it will still fit. Now this I'm going to take over there to the cooling rack, curing rack, all those words there. Let me give it another smell though. Ooh, it's hot, very, very hot. I do have a different rack for when I'm doing hot process than cold process, because cold process I could just, put it on the rack, make sure it's, in a nice safe location and enough inches away from anything that can bump it. But the hot process, this stuff is like lava, so I have a special location for the lava of it all. And the fan's blowing behind me, filling everything with a nice cool breeze. But the problem is making those little white parts that says, hey, I'm cooling down faster than you're getting me filled up. So, yeah. And another good thing about hot process soap is if you only fill it like right here, you can smush everything to the front or spread it out or whatever. You don't have to be relegated to, oh, I didn't have enough and now the bar is going to be too thin. Nope, just put it in that one spot and then squeeze it over. I learned that from Essential Soap. You know the lady I'm talking about. Wonderful. Knowledgeable. Has a real fun accent and pretty blonde hair. Yep. She's the one that taught me that I didn't have to have everything flow. And necessarily I could just push it where I need to go, and I could put a little buffer to fill in a gap. And I went, duh, why didn't I think of that? Well, the reason I didn't think of that was because I've been making soaps about 2, maybe 3 years. 3 years if you count melt and pour. And then here comes hot process, well, cold process, and then hot process. And she's been making soaps, 3-4 times there now. I have 2 soaping gurus. I have Kathy, when I want to know all things CP. And I have Kimberly, when I want to know all things HP. Then there's Soap Queen for everything melt and pour. And then of course my main inspiration was KRC. When I asked questions about soaping and stuff, she referred me to a lot of the soapers I watch on video form now, and to the Soaping 101 class, and then I graduated up to CP when I was finally ready. That took a while to transition to that. And then to HP, and now is, let's see what I want to do, and I make my own recipes and everything. So, yeah. But this is my plantain soap. I generally make a plantain soap anytime I make a black soap. Because, like I said, I don't eat plantains. That's like banana's cousin. And I'm allergic to bananas. The closest I get to bananas on any given day, this vape is banana cream flavor. But there's no bananas in it, trust me. I've used it enough where if there was an issue, I would have already been to the hospital to have the issue taken care of. So I know that's not it. Okay, now let's turn this completely off now. Do a scrape. Oh, by the way, I already have the measurements. 132 ounces is 8 1/4 pounds, which means I only needed my Lucy mode and my cylinder mode that I make face soaps out of. Wow, that's hot. And when this is done, I'm just going to let it sit right here to cool down. And the top is already cooling, as you can tell by the fact that I can touch it with my bare hands. Can't do that when it's first soaked, because, hello, that will burn the daylights out of you. And not in a fun way. Now, I do not want to slam this right in your ear. And this is my Lucy mode, which means it'll make a whole lot of noise. Let me go over here. That should be enough. Parts of it started popping up like where my face was. And that's my plantain soap. Yep. I think I'm going to push some of the parts that dried on down, because the worst thing that can happen is if you have little chunks that dried in your hot process soap and then it stays hard on the top, and then when it's time to, let's say, cut into the soap, here's these little chunks that fall off. That messes up your count and it messes up the look, and it's irritating for me seeing how I'm trying to put out a product I can be proud of. So that's why I do that. Some people will actually take and stir in some, milk or whatever, so that way they can get a nice smooth thing going. This way it works, and if it ain't broken, I for one ain't gonna fix it. But because this is the Lucy mode, when I put the plastic wrap on it, it's gonna heat up a little bit and then become nice and smooth. So yeah, then I'll have a nice smooth transition. Ta-da! Plantain soap, y'all. Plantain. Where is my pressing seal paper? Plastic. Okay, I moved everything over there into the box on the left. Shortcut. Yeah. There we go. That's completely larger than my Lucy mode, which means it'll hold all that in, and that'll allow it to insulate and permeate and do all that fun stuff it's gonna do. In the meantime, the smell kind of went away from the plantain soap, but it's back and I can smell the plantains. I'm thinking maybe because I was in here the whole time that, I became nose blind to it, but the almost like a banana scent is back. The plantain soap is in the mode. The plantain face soap is in the mode. I am melting into a puddle of goo, and I forgot to eat dinner, so I'm finna go take care of several things at once, starting with my face. Then I'm gonna take a quick shower, eat some food, and then go down there and communicate with the humans in this house. Y'all say bless and stay tuned. Bye now. Oh, this has been People7 on Twitter and YouTube. People elsewhere on the internet. My blog is located at purplebutterfly-people.blogspot.com, and my soaps, Purple Butterfly Soaps, can be located at people.etsy.com. Ciao, babies.